Always a better Friday when we have Gene Valentino with us. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, Ted. How's everybody in the Pine Belt?
We're beautiful. How about yourself?
Well, if I get any better, I'll need to take medicine or something. I don't know.
And a very good morning to you, Mr. Valentino. Always good to talk to you, sir. Man, I'll tell you something. You know, we had just quickly, we lost a couple of great artists over this past weekend. A lot of our 70s rockers that we loved, like Jimmy Buffett. Anything you wanted to say about any of that?
Yeah. And we lost Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller, and some of the great artists from a chapter earlier. And our challenge will be to keep their memories, keep them in our memories, and to make sure we pass on to posterity their music and their art forms, so that our woke generation does not live in a vacuum, ambivalent about the history that preceded them. That's my concern.
Yeah, Buffett, I'll tell you, I, among others, took that pretty hard. He's from Pascagoula, Mississippi, my hometown. And, he sang about things that we all loved, like cheeseburgers in paradise and margaritas, and Margaritaville, which was a fictitious place that he was the mayor of. And it was just sort of a relaxing kind of escapism kind of music. And I think that we will all miss Jimmy Buffett and him just being here on this planet, because he was such a force for relaxation, I guess you could say.
You couldn't have hit it. You couldn't have said it better, Michael. His sister Lucy, who went by Lulu's, had a great operation, pub, restaurant, entertainment land over here on the Alabama-Florida border. And he'd show up by surprise. And over at the historic Naval Air Museum in Pensacola, the home of the Blue Angels, he would come in unannounced at times and play music. It was stunning. He would have a captive audience in the museum. We'd roll out the blankets, sit on the floor, and let him play for 2 hours. And he did it all for the purpose of our national heritage and camaraderie of spirit. He had that kind of side to him. He was also a seaplane pilot.
I actually saw his seaplane land once in Pascagoula, where he was coming for an event, and he landed in what you don't know what this, but it's called Krebs Lake, which is on the north side of it's not on the beach side, it's on the north side, the bay side. And, came up to a dock, a private dock there, tied his plane up, got off him and somebody else. And I think Mac McAnally was with him and came to Pascagoula. So I got to see that once. And that was a nice plane, by the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So enough of that. Let's get on to some national politics, which is something that you and I love to discuss. What's on your mind this week?
Well, on my Grassroots Truthcast, where we do interviews with key people from time to time, next week we're going to be interviewing Roger Stone, who was involved with a very interesting background, involved in several presidential campaigns, and was blacklisted by certain politicians and tried to put in jail most recently during the Trump administration. He'll be a guest of mine on Grassroots Truthcast. I'll share some of his points with you after we have him on next week. But one of the other folks I had on recently was Maria Calkins, and she's of Ukrainian descent, and she runs the chapter for Moms for Liberty. And Moms for Liberty was just on Fox News yesterday and today, I believe. You keep an eye on that young group of ladies. They're pushing back on masks. The first pandemic and the fear that the sky was falling and the lockdowns and the vaccinations and the masks were all pushed on us 2.5, 3 years ago. Watch out. I think there's going to be a backlash. No small coincidence. It skews with an upcoming election so that you're forced to stay in your home and go through this goofy local ballot depository system, which exacerbated all sorts of accusations of fraud and ballot tampering. It's a mask formation psychosis.
Yeah, if we want to stop the steal, we are either going to have to get in the game and start to do this mail-in stuff on the Republican side, or we're going to have to get laws passed to stop it, because that is where the steal comes from.
And to fix the problem, which you and I harp on every week, it's going to take intestinal fortitude, strong leadership, and not just a bunch of hocus pocus politicians who do a 180 on us once they get in office. Sounds like a guy by the name of Joe Biden who pulled a 180 on us after he got elected. We need leadership you can trust and count on during the political campaigning season, and that it is consistent with their position after they're elected. Keep your eye on this Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota. I don't think she's going to run for president, but I do think she'll execute for a good president if a good candidate is smart enough on the Republican side to pick her. Hey, can I step back 1 second and talk about a few other points?
Go right ahead.
Okay, last year, I had written down some thoughts here I'm about to read to you. I never was able to talk to you about them on the air, but I'd like your opinion of just how relevant those points are 12 months later. I wrote, there is an ongoing and rapidly increasing threat against a free humanity throughout the globe. Economically, the gap between the wealthy and the poor is widening, and the middle class is being intentionally destroyed. The debt-structured fiat system is unsustainable, and the movement toward a digital currency is designed to implement total control over your behavior and mine on a daily basis. Nutritionally, medically, pharmacologically, technologically, the human race is being malnourished, poisoned, and diseased to maximize multinational corporate and shareholder profits, and ultimately to weaken, control, and enslave you and exterminate humanity. Yes, many elitists with wealth beyond compare, like the head of Microsoft, like others, Zuckerberg from Facebook, manipulating behind the scenes with the mental acuity of a guy like George Sorus, with their billions of dollars, trickling down to fund political campaigns and put the most rotten of rotten Marxist socialist intentions into office to counter our freedoms and our liberties that we know it today. And here's this upcropping of a group called Moms for Liberty at the local level I mentioned in the beginning, coming out to fight for the liberty and freedoms of our children who are being forced to consider wearing a mask because, I'm going to say, because of a new pandemic. There's no proof of a new pandemic.
No, it's an endemic. It's not a pandemic. We already had that.
Well,
this is something that's going to be with us from now on. This is going to be evolving into what we consider to be a bad cold.
Well, before all this COVID crap, had we not had the flu every year and we got a flu vaccine, I mean, it was no big deal. But the vaccine was proven. It went through the trials, the clinical trials, phase 1, 2, and 3. We didn't get that with the COVID vaccine. It was unproven when it was released to market because Trump allowed it, because Mengele Fauci let it out. He and you as a political leader rely on the character and quality of the talent of the people around you. You can't be an expert on vaccines if you're an elected person. So Trump let it out, and it was continued under the Biden administration. And now we're left.
They doubled down.
They doubled down, and you've got different scientists around the nation that are now stepping up, and doctors in different school networks stepping up and saying, hey, we don't have a clinical trial on a damn mask, let alone a vaccine, and you want to tell me you're going to lock down people at homes? What have we turned ourselves into?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of people in this country. It's interesting, but you'll see Democrats and Republicans now that are going to say, "Hey, wait a minute," and we're already starting to see some of the so-called left-wing types, the Democrats that are starting to say, "What are we doing here?" This is not something I think that Americans are going to embrace like we did in the beginning, because what did they tell us? They told us, give us a couple of weeks, 15 days, 30 days, so that we can get this thing under control. Wear a mask just in case we don't know, but we think that'll help. But Fauci is one of the people in the very beginning that said the mask doesn't work. The virus is so small that it goes right through the mask. You still will breathe it in.
That's correct.
There are some benefits in a medical setting to wear a mask. And if I go to a physician's office and I am in there under their control and they ask me to wear a mask, I will. But if I'm outside going to the grocery store to get my food for the week, I'm not wearing a mask.
You hit the nail on the head again, Michael. You cannot expect people to comply with that sort of idiocy when there's no substantiation or proof of efficacy. And people are waking up. People are taking back control of their children that they thought were in good care in schools. They're taking care of their own life. You know, let me leave you with this because I know we're running out of time. There's 6 important reasons why living with purpose is important. We talked about one of them, but the purpose can help you focus. Purpose makes gratitude easy. Purpose sharpens your passions. Purpose helps you live in alignment with your values. Purpose makes you a better leader. And purpose helps you live longer. Your purpose that you just talked about touched on the last one. The purpose of the mask, the purpose of the vaccine, we need to step up and become more proactive and directly involved in our own welfare and not let government, the Democrat liberal state wants to control your purpose. The Republican conservative puts the control back in your hands, we the people, and you control the purpose. And that's what will be revealed by the result of the 2024 election and the primaries leading up to it. Look for the purpose. Look for the person that gives you the purpose and the enjoyment of this nation and this way of life.
Of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, one thing Joe Biden did do, he did bring us together because I saw a poll, 70-something% of all Americans are not happy with him. So
yeah. We got a southern border going crazy, and we're spending time with masks and transgenderism issues, and our country's being invaded from the south, and you're asking me to spend money on Ukraine. Would someone straighten out this alignment of purpose?
Hey, thanks for joining us, Gene. I hope you have a great weekend.
And you too. I'm going flying.